Welcome to this spectacular update where we're building a large LEGO City Hall, complete with a gigantic council chamber where the city's leaders make important decisions about how the city is run. This video is packed with more fun building details than ever before, so let's jump right in. In my previous update, you saw how I designed this colossal cathedral, which continues to shape the historic city center of my LEGO town. Next to the bank building, I had placed a structure that I had previously built in another location, but today, we're completely upgrading it into a stunning city hall that absolutely belongs on the main square of this part of the city. Because let's be honest, what's a historic city without a 19th century city hall? So let's get started and build one right now. We're tearing down the old build and seeing how many bricks we can free up to create something much more impressive. And let me tell you, there are a lot of bricks involved. The City Hall will have the same brick yellow color as before, but this time with way more detail and a much larger scale than the original. I was actually really happy with how the roof looked on the previous version, so I decided to reuse that same design for the new build. The walls of the City Hall are made with arched frames and feature round black windows with golden grills, just like you see in many historic European buildings. These little details give the structure the grandeur and elegance it deserves. Back in the day, the City Hall, next to the church, was the most important building in town, so it absolutely needs to stand out on the main square. The building will be 2 stories high, with the main entrance on the ground floor, and a gigantic council chamber on the second floor where the city's leaders meet to discuss the future of the town. So I expanded both floors to the right dimensions, and by stacking them on top of each other, roof included, you can already get a good sense of what the City Hall's final structure will look like. Even though the building only has 2 floors, it's still becoming one of the tallest buildings in the historic part of the city. That's because each floor is about twice as tall as the surrounding residential buildings, which is exactly what you'd expect from a public landmark like this. I also replaced the original roof windows with matching brick yellow and black framed windows, just like the ones used on the lower floors. On top of that, I built a small corner tower, which is a common feature in classic European town halls, and definitely couldn't be left out in my design. To make room for the tower, I had to cut a section out of the original roof, which made finishing that corner a bit of a challenge, but I think it turned out great. Especially the dark gray pointed roof of the tower looks fantastic thanks to the variety of shapes I incorporated into it. Now that the roof is done, it's time to start working on the ground floor walls. This is where you'll find the main entrance, a front desk, and an imposing staircase leading up to the council chamber on the second floor. And of course, the main entrance itself had to be just as grand, so I decided to design a staircase leading up to the front doors, giving the whole building the impressive look it deserves. I'm still not completely satisfied with the entrance design, but I'll come back to that later. First, I'm replacing the black windows in the roof with transparent ones, so I can reuse the black elements in the outer walls of the building. I ended up needing more of them than I originally expected. To solve this problem, I added an extra layer of brick yellow bricks between the black windows. This made the first floor taller, which meant I needed fewer windows than if I had gone with 3 per floor. Now that the ground floor exterior walls are complete, I'm finishing the upper layer with tiles. Of course, this building is constructed in a modular way, meaning all floors can be easily separated from one another. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to fully furnish the interior if you couldn't access or see it later, right? As I mentioned earlier, I designed a gigantic staircase that leads up to the second floor, something you often see in classic town halls. To make this work, I had to leave openings in the floor of the second story so the stairs would connect perfectly, allowing the council members to walk straight into the meeting chamber. I built the entire staircase using white bricks and finished it off with tiles, just like the rest of the building's interior. The goal is to create 2 large spiral staircases that serve as the central feature of the space. Now that the base of the staircase is ready, it's time to put it in place. Everything had to line up perfectly with the openings in the second floor, and I have to say, it turned out pretty well. With the stairs installed, it's time to add railings and some decorative elements to give the space more atmosphere. For this, I used the same decorative piece that I placed above the entrances of the cathedral. It ties everything together nicely. Now that the staircase is complete, it's time to move on to the exterior walls of the second floor before we start furnishing both floors. As you can see, the second floor is built in the same style as the first. This creates a uniform look, making it appear as if each row of windows represents a separate floor. As a result, the building looks like it has 4 levels, when in reality, it only has 2. This gives it a much more imposing and grand appearance. Now that the structure of both floors is complete, it's time to stack them together. While it looks good, it wasn't quite what I had hoped for. The brick yellow color felt too dominant, and the walls lacked the detail and contrast I was aiming for. To fix this, I decided to add light gray canopies above each window. This not only matches well with the light gray floor sections, but also gives the building the variation and visual interest it was missing. The position of the entrance also didn't align well with the market square the city hall faces. It was hidden behind another building, while the entrance should be clearly visible from the square. So, as you can see in the footage, I moved it to the right to give it the central presence it deserves. I still wasn't completely satisfied with the staircase leading to the entrance, so I made some changes there too. First, I added a striped awning above the doorway, which, combined with the gray window canopies, gives the building's exterior a much more dynamic and varied look. Now that the roof is back in place, we're really starting to see how the final result is coming together. But we're not done yet, because a few exciting upgrades are still on the way. Did you notice that I also changed the tower to use only light gray bricks? This build is a perfect example of how I design my LEGO creations as a visual builder. I need to see the result first before I can decide whether I'm happy with it or if something needs to change. First, I redesigned the staircase in front of the entrance, so it now extends outward from the building, which is something you often see in classic European town halls. Now that the entrance is complete, it's time to start furnishing the ground floor. This area includes a front desk with 2 staff members sitting behind their computers, helping the city's residents with their appointments at City Hall. In front of the desk, I added a glass partition wall with an access point in the corner for staff to enter. We're placing the glass walls into position and adding 2 minifigures behind the desk. Now that the reception area is set up, we can place the roof section back on top and add a security gate, ensuring that only staff members can access this part of the front desk. The desk's floor and roof are finished with white tiles, and from there, I continued tiling the rest of the floor. At first, I used only white tiles, but everything started to look a bit too monochrome. That's why I decided to mix in dark gray and light brown tiles, and honestly, it looks so much better. It adds a more authentic, classic atmosphere, which is exactly the kind of vibe you want in an old government building like this. Now that the floor is complete, it's time to add a few more historic elements to really give this level some extra character and charm. I designed a fountain that takes a central and prominent place in the room. With the ground floor now complete, we're moving on to the second floor, where I'm building a gigantic historical council chamber. First, I designed gallery-style seating on both sides with wooden benches, and above them, wall-mounted chandeliers to give the space a classic look. There are also dedicated areas on both sides where the chairperson and their team can sit to ensure the meetings run smoothly. Just like the ground floor, this level is finished with the same tile pattern, giving the space a warm and cohesive feel. My goal was to design a traditional historic government building, the kind you often see in old European cities, and I think it's really starting to come together. For this design, I took inspiration from the House of Parliament in London, probably the most iconic chamber where 2 political parties face each other, debating a wide range of issues. We're now placing the council members in their seats, which really brings the entire chamber to life. It was quite a project to pull off, but I'm really happy with how the final result turned out. You truly get the feeling of being in a space with a long, storied history where major decisions have been made. And that's exactly the atmosphere I wanted to capture with this build. Now that the entire City Hall interior is finished, we're going to make a few final tweaks to the exterior. I updated the tower to match the same color tone as the rest of the building. And now, it's finally time to bring all the parts together and add this massive project to the historic district of my LEGO city. As you can see, the entrance now has a much more prominent position after being shifted to the right, and it aligns perfectly with the rest of the square. In my opinion, the brick yellow color fits really well with the surrounding buildings and makes for a strong addition to this part of the city. As shown in the footage, there's only one open space left, directly across from the cathedral. Once that's filled in, the historic city center will be complete. Personally, this has been one of the most enjoyable projects I've worked on so far. But of course, I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments what you think of the building and what you might have done differently. Curious to see what I'm building next? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Want access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content? Become a channel member for just a small monthly fee and gain access to videos where I explain how I come up with my designs and how you can get Lego bricks as affordably as possible. That way, you can start building your own dream city too. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.